in Seoul, South Korea, Sun Jin-woo is a member of the Hunters Guild. An E-Tank Hunter, let's rank it only slightly stronger than no humans. Being the weakest hunter, he was always getting hurt and has had a lot of near-death experiences. Had no choice but to be a hunter in order to pay his mom's medical bills. In the construction site where they carry out raids, the day's raid was led by my son Chi-yul. Sun Jin-woo determined to give it his best. One of the hunters in the guild. He scolds Sun Jin-woo as she tended to his wounds. The magical core has gotten after killing monsters. Depending on the monster's rank, the prices are varied. Sun Jin-woo only got an E-rank magical core and it is too small. The dungeon's gate was getting the monster boss is still inside. They had a vote to determine whether to continue and Sun Jin-woo voted in support. He was mad at Sun Jin-woo because it was his vote that allowed them to continue the raid. He apologized, agreed to buy her a meal as an apology. The hunters all entered a huge door which assumedly contained the master boss. Entering inside, all they saw were statues. While reading the commandments, the eyeball of the huge statue moved in sun. Jin-woo felt an eerie feeling. One of the hunters felt no need to stay there and made his way to the door, only to be killed by a statue there. Chapter 4, realizing the dangerous situation they were all pulled in, all the hunters felt scared. Sun Jin-woo recanted all his near-death experiences and the reasons why he wasn't able to get any weapon, which always made him gravely injured and ill-suited to be a hunter. Looking at the big statue, monster boss, Jin-woo shouted for everyone to deck as a loser beam shot from its eyes. The leader, Mr. Sung Chil-woo, was injured. He was panicking and some hunters died. They had two choices: follow the commandments or kill all the moving statues. A decade ago, the gate appeared, causing many bizarre events to be experienced. Hunters arrive and their strength stays the same from when they're awakened, those who have the power across the gate to destroy monsters. Beyond the gate lies unassuming, fearsome monsters like the gate in which Sun. Jin-woo and the hunters are trapped. Presuming that the dungeon is a D rank, Mr. Sung Chi-yul brought only 3 healers, of which one is dead and 2 are disillusioned. One of the hunters with a speed ability thought he could get through. Sigado. The gate before the monsters had him started for the door only to be killed.
Yeah.
You know, Sun Jin-woo noticed a pattern in the attacks and realized there is a rule in the room. The monsters don't kill people who move. Sun Jin-woo figured a rule out in the dungeons. The monster does not attack from a certain height. Remembering the first commandment in the dungeon, he bowed low to the statue. The other hunters followed suit. On doing this, the stoic expression on the statue's face changed to a fierce grinning. His face, they bowed for such a long time that one of the hunters stood up thinking that the worst is over, but the monster rose from his sitting position to stand. None of them knew what to do and turned to Jin-woo, who said they should follow the second commandment, praise the Lord. One of the hunters started reciting a hymn only to be squashed to death. Chapter 7, with no idea on how to praise the Lord. The hunters started running for their lives. The monsters killed whoever is within their reach. Sun Jin-woo noticed some statues with instruments and yelled that everyone should take cover with the statues with instruments. On doing that, the instrument started playing, but 2 people cannot take cover under a statue with instruments. Sun Jin-woo barely escaped towards a statue that sings. His legs was badly injured. He tried to heal his leg only to suffer a nosebleed. Hunters took a stock of him. How many of them was left? 17 at the start and only 6 of them were left with 2 gravely injured. The monster boss made some movements and the place started shaking. A huge altar appeared. The last commandment war, prove your faith. One of the hunters wanted Mr. Sung Chi-yul, their raid part leader, sacrifice himself. Mr. Sung went, but only torch was lit. If they enter the world and they've been there for 7 days, they all stood on the altar only for the statue monsters to approach them. The hunters were standing on the altar with red torches of light surrounding them amidst another circle where in surrounds blue torches of light. They must keep eye contact with all the monsters to prevent them from coming close. The entrance of the dungeon is open when the hunters and a red torch went out. Sun Jin-woo deduced that the blue torches time limit. The red torches represent each of them on the altar. Prove your faiths means even with the open door, which is a trap. They must stand their ground and maintain eye contact, see, with the monsters until the blue light is out. Mr. Kim, one of the hunters who locked down on the Ju Saiwoo, apologized for looking down on him and left leaving Jisik. Whoa, demoralized as the rest of them can't maintain eye contact with all the monsters. The door of the dungeon was nearly closed. Mr. Sung Chayu urged Jiwoo and Miss Juhee to escape, but due to man exhaustion, Miss Juhee couldn't move. Jinwoo gave her the magical core he has and urged Mr. Sung to get out of there with her. She protested. Mr. Sung knocked her out and carried her out of there. The statue monsters advanced nearer. Jinwoo vowed to kill at least one of them as he took a blade. He was beaten to pulp and injured gradually. The thought that he didn't want to die raced through his mind as he pleaded for just one chance. A pop-up bar showing he passed a secret quest appeared before him. If he clicked accept, he won't die. With that, he accepted. Jinwoo awoke in a hospital where he had been asleep for 3 days. The Korean Hunter Guild's inspection came to visit him. The inspectors found it difficult to believe what occurred, but on hearing the hunter's account of what had happened and the bodies found in the dungeon, they believed. They came to Jinwoo's hospital bed to know if he had a double awakening, a case in which hunters' rank increased by a higher rank. Their suspicions were unfounded as the magic power detector detected no higher surge in Jinwoo's power. They left, and Jinwoo's sister, Jino, came in. She scolded her brother and told him she would quit school and get a job if he keeps getting injured. Jinwoo realized he was the only one that can see the magic pop-up screen. He had daily quests to accomplish to become powerful. Jinwoo called the screen's bluff and decided to rest only to wake up and realize not doing the quest has a penalty in the form of being in a desert with a hungry monster for company for 4 hours. Jinwoo barely survived the penalty quest. A nurse found him sprawled on the floor of his ward. The next day, she saw him running around the hospital premises, completing his daily quest. 4 days in the hospital, Jinwoo realized the magical pop-up screen is not an illusion. He could recover from his fatigue by clicking a bar. He left the hospital and decided to figure some stuff out. He had with him an item from the magic screen, an instant key that enabled him to open a dungeon door in a different dimension. He gave it a try, but can only leave if he killed the boss. Faced with the prospect of battling a Steel Fang Raken without a party, Jinwoo started having doubts. He had thought he had no trauma from the face-off with the previous monsters, but he couldn't move his leg. Fear of dying made him move before the monster snapped his head. Jinwoo realized how light his body was and thought of what he could use to detect the monster. Going through the inventory in the pop-up bar, he got Kim Sang Chicks with it. He deflected 2 of the monsters and had increased character stats, muscularity, and sprint, and sword stats. Using the magic pop-up screen, Jinwoo got to know that leveling up allows every stat to go up by 1 and clearing daily quest gives him 3 points. He realized that leveling up makes him stronger. Jinwoo believed that since he was being controlled by the system, the dungeon and monsters were also created by the system as there were no magical cores. But he could sell the Raiken's Fang for gold. Jinwoo, though, fought the rest of the monsters in the dungeon and leveled up several times. The thought of what he had to lose, his loved one, made him fought fiercely. Fighting the monsters at Yilfang Razaka made his sword's blade dull. He recounted the times when he had to forgo buying weapons to save money, times when he used his body to fight. He felt thankful for the weapon because he was able to defeat the monsters with it. He was given the title Wolf Slayers by the pop-up screen. The battle experience left him with 3 WD fangs, 2 worn daggers, his clothes, and a heartstone. He could return with the heartstone or continue the dungeon quest. He continued advancing, leveling up, and defeating more monsters. He distinguished the monsters' ability with their different colors, but even at that, he had an eerie feeling that he was no match for the monster boss below where he stood. He stood face to face with the monster boss in the dungeon in Poison Fang Rasaka. Standing face to face to the huge serpent, Jinwoo realized that a sword and punches won't deflect the monster. He needed a very fast attack with weight behind it, as well as a way to weaken its defenses. Fighting with the monster made him realize how weak he still was. He thought back to all his previous experiences, the taunts, jobs, and veiled hypocrisy. It dawned on him that strength is overwhelming and fear makes one collapse in front of the enemy. And that no matter how knowledgeable or wise he was without strength, it all comes down to nothing. Remembering his previous encounter, he defeated the monster and got a dagger from Rasaka's Fung and a pouch containing its venom as reward. After defeating the monster boss, the dungeon system was cleared and Jinwoo found he was in Happing Station. He decided to use the dagger he got from the quest and keep the pouch containing the venom for later use. A soldier found him and, unknowing he was a hunter, told him about the monsters that have involved the nearby surroundings. Jinwoo reached there to see healers, hunters, and soldier facing off the monster boss. He saw Miss Juhee, and apparently the previous dungeon raid still had her shaken up. Jinwoo vowed to overcome his fear, and with that he weakened the monster's defense just as the hunters were running out of strength. The monster was defeated. A soldier doubted if it was indeed them who defeated it. Performing the daily quest made Jinwoo bulk up pretty quickly. His sister noticed the change in his body as it was more told. Jinwoo deduced that his increased strength stat made his body change too. He balanced it up in the pop-up screen. Analyzing his situation, Jinwoo estimated that he would be a top-rank hunter at his current rate. The only way he would make a lot of money was if he killed higher-ranked monsters, and that is by entering gates of such difficulty. He decided to keep his stats a secret. Jinwoo got called into an attack force about to enter a C-rank gate. They had no healers and only brought him in to carry their stuff. He met Yojinho, a friendly D-rank there. Strapping the hunter's belongings together on for back, Jinwoo made his way into the dungeon with the rest. The construction site was deserted as the boss had ran away with 9 billion 2 weeks ago. The strength stat enabled Jinwoo carry the belongings with little effort. Yojinho viewed the hunter profession as a hobby. He was a conglomerate. On entering the dungeon, the place was quiet and dark, an unreasonably large sea gate. Jinwoo first time as C-rank gate. On creating some light, the place had 2 tunnels, but reversible monsters, yet Jinwoo increase made him realize they were insect-type monsters. The hunters had great teamwork and fought off all the insects. Jinwoo had a nagging feeling about the raid leader. It's a C-rank dungeon. They were in Westgate out like a maze, so it took them a while to move through. Jinwoo, being the baggage carrier, had it pretty easy. He didn't need to get into battles, and his bad premonition about the group didn't go away. They arrived at the boss room, which contained a mine of mana crystals. The monster boss carrying Spider was sleeping after absorbing the insect monsters. The leaders and the other hunters made an excuse about getting the mining equipment to excavate the mana crystals, leaving Jinwoo and Jinho behind with the monster boss. They blocked the monster boss room and made their way out of the situation just as they have always done. They are called the Lizard. Apparently Jaiwoo had heard about the Lizard in one of his dungeons raids. They are a bastard that can manipulate the facts that accident occurs in a dungeons to leave behind those weak, then themselves to fend for themselves, to fend to themselves in face of great danger. Jinho was very scared. He had come to the realization that they wanted them dead so they could take the mana crystal for themselves. Meanwhile, the leader of the raid, Haewang, Danguk, and the rest had determined that after the monster killed the 2, they would take the mana crystal for themselves, or at the very least Aki Jinho's sophisticated raiding equipment. And in the boss room, Sung Jinwoo felt no fear or pressure from the monster and began to attack it. Jinho was amazed by his skills. Using the dagger he get from his previous quest, Jung Jinwoo started fighting the monster boss. With his increased strength stats and abilities, Jinho was surprised he was labeled as an E-rank hunter. Jinho suspects that Sung Jin is a false ranker, as his skills were definitely higher than a ranker. The Lizard that come back to find that the monster boss killed. They suspected that its death had something to do with Jinho's sophisticated raiding equipment. They urged him to join their group and kill Sung Jinwoo. Jinho refused, and who was one of then blasted Sung Jinwoo, who was in an unguarded moment as the system requested him to finish a quest wherein he kills the enemies after his life. Jinho was disoriented when he saw Sung Jinwoo blasted. Sung Jinwoo realized that if he wanted to remain alive, he has to kill them. When he emerged from the rambles, another hunter attacked him only to have his head snapped off by his dagger. This scenario had the hunters confused. The hunter whose head Jinwoo snapped off was a D-ranker. The fact that Jim was killed him easily as an E-ranker made the other hunters wary of him. One by one, they came at him and he killed them all. The leader was surprised. Gathering his strength, he charged at Jinwoo only to be slammed to the ground unknown to him. Jinwoo had been leveling up after defeating the monster base and the other hunters. Jinwoo finished off the leader. With Jinho looking a bit sick and surprised, Sung Jinwoo doggered the quest with having a new skill, Bloodlust. In USA, the leader's brother woke up with teary eyes. The inspectors of the Hunters Guild caught a whiff of the C-rank dungeon quest. Investigating further, they found it a stronger coincidence that Sung Jinwoo, previously involved in a quest earlier, was among the hunter in the raid. The fact that only he and Jinho survived was suspicious, and the healer of the raid being Hwang Dong-soo's older brother made the case a troubling one. Meanwhile, Jin was discovered in special ability given by the system, which helps him purify harmful substances and other benefit. Health-wise, Jinho sought Jinwoo out as wanted to build a personal guild. While jogging with his younger sister, the most morning, Jinwoo recounted his previous conversation with Jinho. Jinho was making a 3 billion win investment to organize C-rank dungeon raids 19 times in order to be a guild master. The deal involved him paying Sung Jinho handsomely. Jinwoo had a condition. Only he and Jinho would perform the raid. Meanwhile, in America, Hong Pong Suk Serrant Hunter and the Lizard Boss was planning on avenging his brother, as he believed his brother was killed by Sun Jiwoo and So Jinho. Ji was, after performing his daily quest, has on hidden quest to fulfill. Jinwoo was determined to overcome his fears and continue leveling instant up. The instant dungeon he just entered was Sty rank in a very rare dungeon gate in the real world, and handful of S rank hunters remained in the world. Jinwoo has to battle Hell's Gatekeeper Cerberus. Fighting with the monster made him realize how meager his skills are compared to the monster. With fierce determination and dog skills, he stained the monster and leveled up. Now, he has the monster boss to face. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Baiman making a dead with a psychopath to help him kill some criminals. Mr. Song Aichul trained with his student who was an S-rank hunter. Later, as he walked in the stress, he debated within himself whether he was fit to be a hunter or not. As he was walking, he saw Sung Jinwoo, who looked so different from the last time they met. He was amazed that his torn leg was looking as good as new. And Jin was told him he was also surprised when he saw it. They come to the location of the new dungeon raid and saw the hunters they raided with last. He was surprised to Jinwoo looking so well. Apparently they are raiding with rehabilitating criminals and the shady man in the previous chapter. While raiding the dungeon, the criminal proved their worth as they killed the low-rank monsters effortlessly during the raid. The other hunters, especially Mr. Ong Yichul, noticed how changed Jinwoo was. The no longer needed healing and he could hold his ground pretty well. Mr. C, however, still has his trauma from the previous experience. The shady man from before suggested that they split up. Jinwoo chose the path that has the monster boss at the end of it. Even so, we couldn't shake the feeling that shady man has something up his sleeves. Kang Tae-sik, the shady guy from the Hunters Guild, led the rehabilitating criminal into one of the tunnels and killed him. While he was killing the last one, Mr. Kim from one of the tunnels saw him, realizing that the tunnels are interconnected. Kang Tae-sik decided to kill them all. Sung Jin-woo sensed an extreme killing intent and rushed in the direction with Mr. Song. Yichul and Miss Ju-hee. He barely stopped on attack. Kang Tae-sik made at him. Mr. Kim was almost dead when they saw him. He apologized to Jung, after which he bowed his head and died. Kang Tae showed no remorse for brutally murdering him and ever cooked up a story to tell to help. Mr. Song Yichul was a C-rank hunter with meager ability. He knew fighting with Kang Tae-sik, a B-rank assassin, wouldn't be easy. Holding this ground against Kang Tae-sik proved to be an uphill task, although his movement were pretty good. Kang Tae-sik, not wanting to leave anything to chance, decided to finish off Miss Ju-Yishua's helping Song Yichul. Mr. Song Yichul rebuffed his attack, but he was no match Drew Blood. For a king the sick who sing his sword at Malbian with his magical ability, Mr. Song Yichul was still no match for Kang Tae-sik, was about to finish him off when Jin was. Accepting Kang Tae-sik was surprised Jinwoo was able to stop his attack and suspected that he was a false ranker. Upon seeing the surprised faces of the other two, they affirmed that Jinwoo must be reawakened one. He resolved to teach him a lesson. Kill him? Kang Jae-sik was a psychopath who derived joy in the killing these weaker than him. He had been contacted by a man whose family situation was due to one of criminals in the raid. Kang Tae-sik accepted 3 billion. He went to kill all the criminals and the hunters involved in the raid Torkong. That sick offered to spore them if they don't know mention to anyone outside about what happened during the raid. Jinwoo didn't that hit while in his words and the two started fighting. On fighting, they realized that their speed are pretty much the same, although Kang Tae-sik had more experience. Kang Tae-sik made an attack while Jae-woo was momentarily distracted. The system activated itself and instructed Jinwoo to kill him, else he will die. Jinwoo resolved to hold his ground and was glad for the system's instructions, as it gave him another reason to kill Kang Tae-sik. He activated this spirit skill and attacked Kang Tae-sik. He drew Kang Tae-sik blood with his dagger, but the paralysis effect was canceled as Kang Tae-sik resistance was too much. He then used his stealth skill, which prevents him from being seen. He made an attack on Jinwoo that made the tendons at his knee severed. He was surprised that Jit was recovered instantly from the injury without Miss Ju-yee's help. Kang Tae-sik realized that Jinwoo must have killed before, as the way he fought him showed that he fights to kill. Mr. Song Yichul then knew that reason why Woo felt so different. Knowing that Jinwoo wasn't an easy opponent, Kang Tae-sik decided to use his full power, but doing that didn't reduce his bloodlust. Meanwhile, Jinwoo actuated the bloodlust skill, which shackled Kang Tae-sik, and then Jinwoo struck him in the heart. Miss Juicy showed Jin one the magical cone he gave her for the dinner. He promised her during the traumatizing raid. Miss Ju, he told him about her struggles to overcome the past event. She told him that past, although being a B-rank healer, she has only ever entered D-rank or E-rank dungeons. and that she admired him for his perseverance despite sustaining several injuries during dungeon raids. She returned the magical cord and informed him that she was retiring. She promised to buy him a meal in the future. Jinwoo resolved to be stronger in the future. Ash will face Wang Dongxi. His first raid with Yo Jianho started, and they both rookie entered the C-rank dungeon. The other hunters with them wired to stay outside. After being involved in these accidents so far, making it out safely was too much coincidence. He gathered that Sin Wu was a reawakened hunter and decided to scout Jin Wu into the White Tigers Guild. Meanwhile, Jin Wu continued to face off monsters in the dungeon raids, with Jinhu mining the magic crystals. With his constant face-offs, Zhulo leveled up and acquired more skills, requiring him to raise his intelligence stats. When the chief of the White Tiger Guild reached Jie Wu's location and was surprised to see the rest of the party lounging outside, Jinwu told Jinhu that he would be occupied the next day. The chief decided to make a deal with Zheng Saiwu, but was taken aback with Sin Wu's price. Jin offered Sin Wu a 30 billion won building for his services. Jin Wai deduced that for the White Tiger Guild's chief to contact him, he must have a better offer in mind. Meanwhile, the man was surprised as he had no idea the deal between Jinyu, chief, and Jinwu. Sung Jai Wu wanted to know how the chief gained the information about him. He used his stealth still to pressure the man into telling him the details he knew. Jinwu told him he didn't want a lot of people knowing about him. The chief decided not to mention it to anyone. He told Jinwu that he needed C-rank gates, as most of them have been reserved by Yuo Jinhu. Jinwu sold it to him for 600 million, which was a total ripoff, as there were lots of gate available for less the price. Jinhu hadn't reserved any gate on that day. The first night he faced off, which proved a bit difficult, he slain it and then remembered that he hadn't done his daily quest for the day, as not doing it might warrant him a penalty quest. He stayed more nights and got a few items. Seeing that he was facing off with diverse types of monsters, he utilized different stats for each of them. He leveled up more and gained more items. He reached the dungeon door and felt a familiar sensation coming from a huge knight coming towards him. The knight advanced towards him and swung its sword at Jinwu. He ducked just in time and hit the helmet crack in its head. He struck again more deeply and more serious damage to the knight's octal area. And he slain the knight and leveled up a lot. He received a lot of iteens as his rewards: the real knight's helmet, S-rank item, Dominator's Touch, a leather pouch that can hold a lot of gold and on Heartstone. Realizing that he get a Heartstone, Jinwu realized that the quest wasn't over yet. The knight was Blood Red Commander Idris, and facing it, Jinwu realized that it was different from the other knight. He just fought it. The fight started and he saw how formidable he was, with incredible strength and impenetrable armor. Realizing that without a good weapon, he couldn't with it all, he resolved to use his fist. The knight also threw his sword away. Even with that, Jinwu realized the difference in their stats. When the knight slammed him against a wall without the protecting him, he would have died. Despite increasing his sprint kill, he was still no match, but Jinwu wasn't about to give up. He suspected that wouldn't be the end of the quest. And guess what? He was right. The longer he lasts in the fight, the more points that would give for a job change. Sang Jinwu exclaimed at this development. As the timer started, he motivates himself to fight. For every second, 1 mana is consumed, and he's only 390 mana with quite enough HP and MP, which he believes could last him for this fight. To defeat, he has to use Blood Test skill that takes 100 mana. And he also activated passive skill. Oh, they were too many for him, and he thought of using the Hearthstone, but gave up at the end, which makes them refer to him as the weakest. Although they feared he could head them because he faced Stealth at his peak. Facing his former self during the dungeon quest was probably the last thing Jinwu expected. His former self made jabs at him, saying he was still a weakling who finds himself in perilous situations. Focusing on the quest on hand, Jinwu shut him up and faced the huge knight in front of him. But while fighting it, the odds were too high against him. The lookalike of his former self continued making jabs at him. As the knight swung its sword for a final strike at Jie Wu, he was taken to the penalty zone as he had in there his daily quest for the day. Glad for the good timing, he restored his stats and resolved to leveling up by surviving the penalty quest for the next 4 hours. Meanwhile, back home, Jinwu's sister was surprised he wasn't at home yet, as it was very late. She hoped he would be there for her bent teachers meeting holding that day. However, the instant penalty zone, Jinwu continued defeating monsters and leveling up while healing himself too. Seeing that he had defeated all the monster and still had 3 minutes to prepare for the dungeon quest, he purchased items that can dealt more damage than what he had. Using the rain store he obtained when he absorbed the stealth skill, he obtained the Dominator's Touch, which does not require mana on entering the dungeon quest. He found defeating the knight relatively easier than earlier, but seeing as he wasn't leveling up or anything, he realized that the magicians had been summoning knights for him to defeat. Doing that, he began to attack the magicians. With the magicians activating the detection skill, it made finding their position really easy. So he had 5 magicians left to slay. With the Dominator's touch, he was able to slay a magician, but a knight stabbed him with a sword, gritting his teeth and gathering his resolve. He slayed the knight and a magician. With 3 magicians left, the destructiveness increased. Seeing the opportunity, Jinwoo slayed the most of the magicians. Since the quest was ever, he had to choose a job, which would be granted based on the analysis of his action. Jinwoo's mind had gone along jobs such as warrior, assassin, and tank based on his stat. However, the system had another idea arts analysis barred on Jiwoo's path trailed by corpses and the smell of blood. He obtained a B rank and C rank dangers as reward for the quest. The system's analysis reads that Jin, who would have on every of lead that would follow his commands and with which he would require no one's help. His job was necromancy. Jinwoo was flabbergasted. He hadn't for once touched the intelligence stat, which required he had always had his magic subclass, necromance. Job would be assassin based on his training as a hunter from the very start. He felt sure that his stats would be useless as his army slaves. Would not be able to get stronger, but he had choice to accept or refuse the click to refuse. But necromance was a hidden class, not knowing what that meant. But analyzing the previous situation, he realized that if he leveled up, his army would also be stronger. With that, he accepted. He got a lot of points and a skill called shadow extraction. After sane attempts, he used a command phase, large, to extract the shadow of Igris, stepping out of the instant dungeon quest. Jinwoo went home and slept in. A call from his sister providing him of her post-10D meeting and holding at 5 o'clock that day woke him up, freshening up. Jinwoo saw that he had to dress better. Going to the bank to update his bank book and add a new debit card, the bank personnel attending to him was surprised at his bank balance and asked him what his job was. The replied that he was a hunter. On reaching his sister's school, she was surprised that her brother cleaned up well. The students in the hallway were in awe of his appearance. Entering the teacher office, she exchanged pleasantries with him and told him about his sister and her career choice. She asked him if he could allow B to be a hunter if had abilities. Jinwoo refused. With that, the teacher asked him if he could have a talk with one of her students who stopped going to school because she awakened as a E rank, Han Song. Jinwoo recognized the girl as one of the Makis Jinwoo hired as part of their dungeon raid. He stay by the gate. That while they both hunt, Jiwoo talked with Han Song 1, who had no plans of ever returning to school. He told her she would need a durable weapon to fight with during dungeon raids and promised to make her a great hunter. Meanwhile, Hong Dong-soo was back in Korea and was received by Woo Jin-chul, head of the munitioning division. Jinwoo already knew he was back to avenge his cruel brother death, but he had no plans of stopping him as an S-rank hunter. In another part of the city, Jinwoo took Han Song to a dungeon raid font to be performed by the White Tigers Guild. On the entering there with the other members of the party, An Sang-min, the chief of the White Tigers Guild, and his assistant realized that it was a red gate disguised as a C-rank gate. In the drive from the airport, Wang Dong-soo wanted to go to a dungeon as he was sure that he would find Sun Jinwoo there. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, the hunter in the raid felt something different. The place was unlike any dungeon they'd ever seen. It was all snow and the gate had disappeared. Ice elves started throwing icicles at them, some of which Jinwoo deflected at the gate. However, the head of the White Tigers Guild was infuriated that the Hunters Guild took no responsibilities and still claimed that the gate was a C rank. He ruled out the probability of it being C rank and ranged it at a ranked. However, he still hoped some of the B or A ranked hunter would return alike. He was infuriated when An Sang-min told him Jinwoo had ranked, and Han Song either. The Ice Elver finished off the 2 weakest hunter in the raid. One of the rank explained her situation to them. Jinwoo also contributed as one of the hunters asked him why they were stranded. So stay tuned because the journey has just begun. The world of solo leveling holds secrets yet untold, and the saga of Sung Jinwoo is far from reaching its climax. As we eagerly await the chapters yet to unfold, prepare to be captivated by a story that transcends the boundaries of imagination, for the tale of Sung Jinwoo is just getting started.